Hello and welcome to Your Brainchild. Today I'll be discussing why we invert and multiply fractions when we're dividing fractions. So let's say I wanted to divide 1/5 divided by 2/3. So you know by the rules that we would invert the fractions and multiply them. So what we would get is 1/5 multiplied by 3/2, which will give me 3. 3 times 1 is 3, over 5 times 2, 10. But why do we do this? Now the long way of doing division is to use the lowest common denominator method. So for that, let me explain it. So 1/5 divided by 2/3. The lowest common denominator between 5 and 3 is 15. And to get to 15, what I would do is multiply 5 by 3, and whatever I do to the denominator, I do to the numerator. And similarly, to make 3 into 15, I would multiply it by 5. And whatever I do to the denominator, I would do to the numerator. To get the equation, 3/15 divided by 10/15. And I would just go ahead and solve that, which will give me 3/10 divided by 15/15. So 15/15 is basically 1. So then I would get something like 3/10 all over 1, or in other words, simply 3/10, which, as you can see, is the same number we got in the invert and multiply method. So how do we get the invert and multiply method? Why does it work? So first, we find the lowest common denominator over here. And the easiest way to find a common denominator, it might not be the lowest common denominator, but to find a common denominator, you multiply the denominator of the other fraction into it. So let me show you exactly what I mean by that. I'm going to erase this side, which is the invert and multiply method. So to get the lowest common denominator, what did I do? 2/3. I multiplied this denominator into the numerator and the denominator. And similarly, I did the same vice versa. I multiplied the denominator of 3 into the numerator and denominator. Now, in the lowest common denominator method over here, we see that the denominators of both the fractions technically cancel each other out. So here, we got 5 times 3 is 15, 3 times 5 is 15, which is what we got here, and 15 divided by 15 is 1, which basically means they cancel each other out. But how did we get the number 3/10? How did we get the numbers 3 and 10? We got 3 by multiplying 1 by 3, and we got 10 by multiplying 5 by 2. So we multiplied the denominator of the other fraction into the numerators. And an easy way to do that is by inverting the fraction. So by inverting the second fraction, I get 1/5 multiplied by 3/2. So in doing so, you see that I'm following the exact same procedures as before. I'm doing 1 by 3, 1 multiplied by 3, which is what we did over here. And then 5 multiplied by 2, which is what we did here, 2 multiplied by 5. And that's how we get the answer 3 over 10, which is the answer we got in the previous invert and multiply method, and also the longer finding the lowest common denominator method. And that's why, I hope it makes sense, that when we're dividing fractions, a shortcut, a simplified version, is to invert the fraction, the second fraction, and multiply. I hope that helps in understanding why the invert and multiply method works while we're dividing fractions. So now that we know how the invert and multiply method works, I want to talk about what we're doing when we divide fractions. So let's say I wanted to do 1 over 8 divided by 2 over 3, 2/3. So as we know, the invert and multiply method, we would do 1 over 8 multiplied by 3 over 2. And so if I multiply the numerators, I will get 3. And if I multiply the denominators, I get 16. So the answer is 3 over 16. So here I'm going to take you to my fractions table. The yellow line, the yellow row, I've divided it into 3. 1, 2, 3. So I know that one cell is equal to 1/3 of this row. Similarly, in the green row, I've divided into 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which means that one cell is equal to 1/8 of this row. So now that we're comparing 2/3 and 1/8, I'm going to delete all of the rows in between. So what we want to know is how much 1/8 is of 2/3. Now, the best way to answer this question is to find the lowest common denominator. In this case, the lowest common denominator would be 1 over 24. So what I'm going to do is divide this row into 24 so that each cell is worth 1 over 24. Okay, so what we want to know is how much 1/8 is of 2/3 when we're dividing 1/8 by 2/3. So here, let's count. 1/8 is 1, 2, 3 of 2/3, right up to here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So that's how we come to the answer that 1/8 is 3 of 16. I hope that helps to answer what we do when we're dividing fractions. Take care.